Hello and welcome back to the American Patriots channel. I'm Jeff Penrod, your host. Today we're going to be talking about the homeless in America. Now this city behind me is a typical American city. It looks like most any other and maybe looks like where you live right now. People are going about their normal daily lives. And yet, if we look closer, if we look behind the scenes, we'll find that there's a human tragedy unfolding. There we will find the homeless who are just trying to survive. They are grateful for any help. They are sleeping on cold, hard benches, just trying to stay warm. They're not only homeless, but they're also hungry, and they're looking for help. They are not just individuals, but sometimes families. Not just adults, but sometimes children. This man lost his leg for his country. He says, "Please help. You will be blessed." The homeless have not much more than the clothes on their back. This situation cannot be ignored. Look at the detail of this picture. There he is, sitting on a cold, hard sidewalk with dirty snow behind him, and around him is the simple and basic possessions that he has. He has nothing more. He gave us his leg in the service of all of us for our freedom. What can we do for him? Surely the wealthiest country in the world can do much more to help our homeless. What can we do to help them? Well, let's start by looking to see if housing, a roof over your head, is either a basic human right or an earned privilege. Under Article 25 of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, everyone has the right to a standard of living adequate to the health and well-being of himself and of his family, including food, clothing, housing, and medical care. Now that we have established that housing is a basic human right, let's look into how many people are homeless in America and also what the trend is doing. In 2020, the number of homeless people in America was estimated at 580,466. About a decade ago, the number was somewhat higher, but decreased during the early 20-teens. It is now increasing, however. Okay, so what can we do to address this issue? What can we do to work towards ending homelessness in America? One simple approach would be to provide housing for every homeless person. Although that sounds like that would work, it really doesn't work very well because it doesn't address the underlying cause, the reason that the homeless person became homeless in the first place. So instead, we need to look into those reasons and understand them, and then tailor our approach based on that homeless person's needs. So here are some of the main reasons that a person becomes homeless in the first place. One is that they lose their job, and they either can't find another job or the job that they find doesn't pay well enough to cover their rent. A second reason is a major medical condition, one that causes them to have such high medical bills that they go bankrupt and lose their home, and that could be associated also with high prescription drug costs. A third major reason is either alcohol or drug addiction. Another reason is domestic violence. A woman who's experiencing domestic violence is likely to leave her home, take her children with her, and sometimes ends up being homeless. And then a fifth and final reason is mental illness. So you can see we need to tailor our approach towards the individual needs. And we could do this in a trial and error type of approach. Try this, try that. And it turns out that a lot of countries have tried a variety of different things, and yet most don't work very well. So we waste a lot of time and a lot of money in a trial and error approach. So instead, why don't we look around and find out if there's someone who has succeeded, someone who has really effectively reduced the number of homeless in their country. That way we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Well, it turns out that Finland has done just that. They have an approach called housing first, and it really works. Let's take a look and see what the homeless trend is in Finland. This graph shows the number of homeless people in Finland starting in the year 2008, when the Housing First program first started. The blue line shows the total number of homeless in the entire country, and you can see that the trend is decreasing significantly, showing the progress that they have made. They are working towards ending homelessness in their entire country. Just what is this Housing First program all about, and why has it been successful where so many others before it have failed? Most others think that you need to address the underlying cause of a person's homelessness before you provide them with long-term housing. The Housing First program, on the other hand, turns that thought process on its head. What it says is that you need to provide long-term housing first, with no preconditions, and then, and only then, address the person's underlying cause of their homelessness. So for example, if a person is addicted to drugs, they need to be removed from the street environment that they came from, an environment where all the drugs and drug dealers are, and placed in a stable housing environment away from the street, and only then will they have a chance at being successful with their drug addiction. Now, the Housing First program also eliminates the need for temporary and emergency shelters and instead replaces that with a need for long-term housing units. And here's what one of those looks like. Each Housing First community provides caseworkers to address the specific needs of its residents. This provides a one-on-one experience for each resident that allows the caseworker to monitor and guide each resident through their recovery process. Some of the residents might need help finding a job, employment assistance, while others might need on-the-job training. Still, others might need counseling for alcohol or drug addictions, while others might need mental health services. And still, others might need counseling to manage their finances or their debt. But in all cases, they get the help that they need. Ultimately, Housing First communities turn this into this and this. Wow, what a difference. Well, we've seen that the Housing First program in Finland significantly reduces the rate of homelessness. But what about the success rate of the participants? 4 out of 5 were able to regain a stable life. 4 out of 5. But then what about costs? As you've probably guessed, the upfront costs are pretty high because there will be a demand for affordable housing. It turns out that long term, though, the costs are lower because the need for support services is significantly lower than that of the other programs, such as the way we handle it in the United States now. So you pay a lot up front, but you save on the back end. So let's address that need for more affordable housing. How can we handle that and yet not spend a tremendous amount of money doing so? Maybe there's a better way. Well, right now, there's two groups of people that need affordable housing: the poor and the homeless. So it's not just the homeless, it's the poor also. Let's take a look at the rate of poverty in the United States right now and how it compares with other countries. This graph is provided by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. And they measure poverty based on persons living with less than 50% of median equivalized disposable income. So based on that metric, the United States, which is the blue bar, has a 17.8% poverty rate, whereas the average of all of the OECD countries, that would be the red bar, have a 11.7% poverty rate, significantly lower than the United States. So what if we were able to reduce the poverty rate in the United States down from the blue bar to the red bar? What would that do to the supply of affordable housing? That, my friends, would free up a lot of housing units for the homeless. So then how are we going to reduce poverty like that? Well, in a nutshell, the most important thing that we could do is to provide incentives for people who are on welfare right now to escape poverty. Right now, if they get a job, they will likely lose their welfare benefits. So it discourages them from getting a job and gaining job experience in order to move up in a company. Not only that, but they have no incentive whatsoever to further their education if they're on welfare. We need incentives to motivate people who are on welfare to get a job and get that good job experience, to motivate people to get an education in order to better themselves. And also, we need incentives that if they get married, that we don't take away their benefits either, because married couples have a lot lower poverty rate and a lot greater ability to escape poverty than do single parents. So there you go. Now, if you want more detail on how to go about reducing poverty, then take a look at my video on social welfare in America, also my video on education in America and how we can foster higher levels of education for Americans, and in addition, my video on employment in America. All right, so that should do the job to free up a lot of units there in the affordable housing sector so that our homeless can take advantage of housing first and get on track to recover. But then in addition, there's the cost of those mental health services and addiction services too. How are we going to afford those? There's more cost there, and we need to try to do this in a cost-effective and efficient manner. Well, what we need there is to provide quality, affordable health care to all Americans. Right now, there are many, tens of millions of Americans that cannot afford their own health care, let alone the homeless, of course. So if you watch my video on health care for all, then you'll see how we can do that as well. So the homeless would have all of those services that they would need, and they would be cost effective such that they could afford them, because it's based on income levels. All right, so there it is. Homelessness is such an awful thing, and you've seen the pictures, and yet we can make it so much better. Having a home, having housing, is a basic human right. And here, the wealthiest country in the whole world, surely we could do that for our citizens. Now, how are we going to accomplish this, though? Well, Here's where you can do your part. Contact your legislator, your congressman or woman, or your senator. Tell them to take a look at Finland and how they use Housing First and their program to reduce homelessness in their country. It'll work here too, where we could drastically reduce the homelessness and create a goal to eliminate homelessness, end it entirely in our country. And who knows, maybe we could get there. But at the very least, we could do a whole lot better than we're doing right now. Think of how wonderful it would be for those people sleeping outside on those cold benches, sitting on the sidewalk next to the snowbank. Instead, if they had one of those nice, affordable housing units of their own, and the help to recover, to get through the problems that they have. Don't we owe it to them? I surely think so. Well, that's all I have here on the American Patriots channel for this episode on the homeless. I hope to see you again in my next episode. God bless you.